I saw a comment that was actually perfect for the topic that we want to talk about today. It's from Pipeline Podcast. He said, I found Anthony Pompliani. I found Anthony Pompliano's YouTube channel, and he was mentioning Lava BTC loans, and it works in California. So it works perfectly for what we wanted to discuss here today. Do you guys want to go into it?
Yeah, let's do that. Oh, right here.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't find it.
That's okay. So he said that Lava is basically a new platform, I guess. What would you call it?
It's a custodial lending platform that LARPed as a non-custodial platform, lending platform for quite a long time. I heard about this months and months ago, and they were toting DLCs, which are discrete log contracts, which is a type of basically agreement that you can do in I believe it's in a 2 out of 3 multisig with an oracle, a lender, and a borrower. And you can make an agreement that the oracle then dictates whether that agreement comes to fruition or not. So you can create a loan, and if you default on the loan, then the oracle closes it out and gives the proceeds to the lender and brings in information from what Bitcoin's price is and stuff. It's still technically possible to create these things, and there's actually people will create like options contracts with DLCs, discrete log contracts. And this is the whole premise of what Lava was. It was supposed to be a self-custodial, because in that situation, you have one of the 2 out of 3 keys. An oracle has a key, and the partner or the lender will have a key as well.
What's an oracle?
An oracle is like a third party that only acts on information that it's supposed to have for the agreement. So if you create an option, or if you create what looks like an option contract in here, the oracle, you would make an agreement. You would say, if Bitcoin goes to 110,000, then you will sell it to me for 100,000. And an oracle will have the data. It will have that information, the agreement information, and then it will have the spot price from an exchange. And then if it hits 110, it will execute the contract, and it will sign with your key to buy the Bitcoin or whatever. I don't even remember the.
So it's kind of like a smart contract.
Yes. It is basically a Bitcoin. It's not a smart contract as far as I understand it, but it is a way to create sort of agreements and have a third party orchestrate part of the agreement.
Similar idea, though.
Yeah, similar idea. Yeah.
I was going to say, from what I understand, it's like a third party that has information that's widely trusted or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, widely trusted. So the information that I said was the agreement, like that would be the sort of the contract part, and then it has the widely agreed upon price would be maybe one of the inputs, or something else from the market. So people can create betting markets with DLCs, but you can also create loan agreements with DLCs, and that's what Lava was supposed to do. And in fact, they did that for a while. It was in production. And that, like, the custodial aspect of Bitcoin lending is, I would say, the biggest issue. I would say it's the biggest issue. People will talk about lending rates and all this kind of stuff, but they maybe don't understand the fact that when you give up custody of your Bitcoin, that's a huge value proposition of Bitcoin that you're now don't have, right? You now have somebody else owns your Bitcoin, right? And possession is 9/10 of the law, and there's all of that, right? So basically what Lava did, which is fairly deceitful in my estimation, there's a few things they did that was deceitful. One of them is that they just basically moved people's funds from DLCs because they were the oracle and they were the lender, or in some cases they were, so they would have like sort of a liquidity pool so they could lend and basically subsidize their lending product by their own contracts or their own USDC that they would lend out. And then essentially they moved that to a custodial platform, and there was some sort of thing that was sort of vague about this. Like, it was like an upgrade to the vault system that basically you would just have to do. And then that turned it into a fully custodial lending platform, which is what it is today. So it's the same as Let-In or Strike. It's a fully custodial lending platform as of today. The other deceitful thing they have is that they charge it's like a 5% interest loan, but then there's an initiation for the loan that's 2% of the total, and then that's only for either short or long, I can't remember, but then one of the others is actually 7% plus the 2, so it's not really like they advertise 5%, but it's actually, there's all these like sort of hidden fees within there. I don't know, there's just a lot of things there that are not great, I would say, with Lava.
Yeah, I've been seeing posts on X about this, just going into it, and I feel like just reading these posts kind of, it's I don't know what they're doing. I don't quite understand. I think you explained it a little bit better, Forrest, with the DLCs. I don't quite understand. Like, that's not the issue for me. The issue for me it isn't custodial versus non-custodial. It's that they lied.
Yeah,
And
totally.
they didn't seem to tell people in advance, and people are complaining a lot. Like, there's this post here. I'll share the link in the chat so you guys can read it, I guess. But then there's another one. So if in this one we'll go into this. So I'm usually not one who shares much, but recent news about Lava becoming apparently a custodial solution while claiming DLCs. So like you said, DLCs have security flaws made me speak out. I want to share my opinion. So he went through. He gave a bunch of different insights, and then there's another one. I think this one's actually a little bit more. So he's actually responding to the creator of Lava. So he said, I have an active loan. I used to have contracts updating, but please wait. Type loading screens. There was a forced migration process a few weeks ago. There are forced updates in app black screen, making it unusable until you update. I no longer have the contracts updating screen. You now say you don't use DLCs, and there's a bunch of corporate speak about trust and audits or something. Shezen, did you make me install an update where my own app ended my DLC based loan agreement and to enter this new agreement? So this seems really sketch.
Incredibly
and like,
sketchy. The other thing I saw too, I saw this post about how somebody has traced the wallet for Lava, because now it is just a custodial thing, and it keeps, it's like one large single sig, and it keeps moving Bitcoin back and forth between a Kraken wallet. It's like,
oh, I think I found it. Was this
what
the
is
post?
going on there?
I just Googled it. Here, check this out. Was this the post that you saw?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So it seems like they moved all the Bitcoin into one address. I just saw this. I was searching for Lava and I just found it. Wow.
Is it a single sig or is it a multi-sig? Was I wrong about that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Doesn't show it. Probably a single sig.
It looks like it. Usually it says on mempool if it's a 2 out of 3.
Oh, I can actually pull it up. Yeah, it's a single. It would say here, no?
It usually says next to the inputs and output.
Yeah.
That's where I've seen it on mempool.
Yeah, it would say
like
multi-sig in brackets 2 of 3 or something like that.
Yeah. So the problem here, again, the problem here isn't custodial versus non-custodial. That's fine. Ledin is custodial, and I've used them. I've looked at them. Strike is custodial. The point here is that when you lie, you lose your reputation. And how do we know that you're not lying about something else?
Yeah, and I would say custodial, the custodial situation matters in this case, because if you have your Bitcoin custody with somebody else, that's a trust agreement. If you have it in self-custody, you're trusting yourself. There's no additional trust. If you learn the skill of self-custody, you have your keys backed up and everything. If you have it with somebody else, that's 100% trust, because you're trusting that they don't do something with it. You're trusting that they don't sell it, or that they're not fraudulent, and all of that. So when anything fishy like this happens, the fact that they pushed updates and made basically the old UX not work without updating is really fishy behavior. And if you're in a lending agreement that's based on trust, and the custodian is doing something that's not trustworthy, then it should be something you completely avoid, like 100% avoid. Just not worth messing around with. Like, it's not messing around with to get 1 or 2% lower, because you don't know what the hell's going on back there. Like, you're risking your entire loan with something like that. So trust is incredibly important. And I think that's why Ledden has succeeded where others have failed. You know, Celsius and BlockFi and these other transparency, right? They do proof of reserves, which amplifies a level of trust. They've outlasted multiple bear markets, and you know, the massive liquidation event in October that we talked about, they supposedly had 0 liquidations happen.
That's the key too, right? Like I would say that that's the number one thing you should be looking for when you're thinking about this kind of stuff is the liquidations and actually making it through a bear market, right? Because everything's easy when it's a bull run. If any business, any product, any lending, whatever it may be, when everything's going up, you don't really see, you know, what's under the wave essentially. And then all of a sudden the tide goes back out and you can see who's wearing what and what's left underneath there. So I think that just that alone, having survived a bear market where most other lending services failed at that time, is a pretty good sign of strength, I would say anyways, for somebody who would be a potential customer.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And yeah, if you're gonna do a lending platform, there's so much value in being able to trust the platform and the custodian. And that value is way more than 1 or 2% on your interest rate.
Yeah, and I think it's important too. I think just kind of acknowledge the fact that there are many different services out there. Many of them have not been through a bear market yet. And when you're thinking about this kind of stuff, there's so many factors to consider, of course, but just, you know, reputation, I think, is the biggest one, because it's one of those things where even if you would have had, like, let's just use last week as an example, or when was it? You said October 10th when the big crash was?
I believe so. Yeah.
I feel like even if you would have bought Bitcoin or took a loan against your Bitcoin when it was like 120K and it dropped to what it did, as low as it did, you still wouldn't have been liquidated because Ledden has a 50% LTV. So essentially, if you have $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, you get a loan for $5,000. And so the LTV there, like, they wouldn't have even come close to being liquidated there, right? Even from the top to where we are today, anybody in Ledden, they wouldn't have been liquidated. There's just no chance.
Yeah, no, it didn't drop low enough. I mean, the LTV would have pushed up. I would have to do the calculation to figure out what it would reach to, but I don't believe it would get to 80.
I don't think so either. It couldn't have, because I remember when it was like $100,000 or higher than that, we figured out it would have to drop to like 60K to get liquidated.
Yeah,
60 or 70K.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? Like I've talked about this a lot, and I've had a couple videos do really well about loaning and borrowing against your Bitcoin and stuff. And you just, when you're securitizing an asset like this, you have so many risks. One of them is the custodian risk. The other one is that LTV risk. And you just need to over collateralize your loans because this is a volatile asset. It's possible that there's also a lot of power going to a lot of institutions which suppress prices, manipulate prices. There's already that going on with leverage. If a flash crash happens, that could punch people right in the mouth with their liquidation, their LTVs. You just want to be over collateralized with these things. That's huge for this, in my opinion. If you're struggling to figure out all this Bitcoin stuff and just want a one-on-one helping hand, I now do consults, which you can book through the link in my description. We can cover moving your Bitcoin off of an exchange into a hardware wallet, security best practices, and basically anything else that you want to go over. Just let me know what it is, and we'll figure out a time that works for you to book in a consult. If you're looking to get yourself some Bitcoin, you can use my link in the description as well for Bitcoin Well, and it is the best possible way, in my opinion, to buy Bitcoin. It's a non-custodial exchange, which means there's no counterparty risk. You send the money, they send you Bitcoin directly, and they also have non-KYC options available, and they have the lowest spreads and fees in the US and Canada. If you want to secure your passphrase for future generations or just in a way that is very safe and secure, I would recommend Stampseed. You can use my code BTC not crypto 15 and get 15% off. They have a titanium seed plate and a stamping kit that works really well, and it is a great product. Check them out as well with the link in the description.